I have spent over 70 years studying how people build wealth and how they destroy it. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that most people are not poor because they do not earn enough money. Most people are poor because they systematically destroy their wealth through purchases they do not even realize are costing them a fortune. They wonder why they cannot get ahead while simultaneously making decisions that guarantee they never will. Today, I am going to share 5 wealth destroyers that I see constantly draining the financial futures of hardworking people. These are not exotic mistakes. These are common purchases that millions of people make every day, convinced they are reasonable or even smart. But when you understand the true cost of these decisions, when you see how they compound against you over decades, you will understand why some people retire wealthy while others retire with nothing, despite earning similar incomes their entire lives. Let me start with a story that illustrates the principle behind everything I am about to share. In 1958, I purchased a home in Omaha for $31,500. That same home is where I still live today. Over 65 years later, people find this remarkable given my net worth. But to me, it makes perfect sense. That modest home has served every function a home needs to serve. It has sheltered my family. It has been a comfortable place to live. It has been plenty of space for everything we have ever needed. Meanwhile, I have watched countless people buy homes far larger and more expensive than they needed. Homes that consumed enormous portions of their income. Homes that left them with nothing to invest for their futures. They thought they were building wealth through real estate. Instead, they were destroying wealth through consumption disguised as investment. That distinction between genuine investments and consumption masquerading as investment is at the heart of everything I am going to share today. The first wealth destroyer, and this one surprises people because it seems so reasonable, is buying too much house. I am not saying you should not own a home. Home ownership can be a reasonable choice for many people. What I am saying is that buying a house that is too expensive relative to your income is one of the most effective ways to guarantee you will never build significant wealth. The typical advice says you can afford a home costing up to 3 or 4 times your annual income. Banks will happily lend you that much or more. But just because you can qualify for a mortgage does not mean you should take one. The true cost of a house extends far beyond the purchase price. Property taxes consume thousands of dollars every year and tend to increase over time. Maintenance costs average 1 to 2% of the home value annually. Insurance costs continue rising. Utilities scale with the size of the home. Furnishing a larger home costs more. Landscaping a larger property costs more. Everything about a bigger, more expensive house costs more, not just once, but continuously for as long as you own it. Let me show you the mathematics of this wealth destroyer. Consider 2 people earning $80,000 per year. Person A buys a house for $200,000 with a reasonable mortgage payment. Person B buys a house for $400,000 because that is what the bank approved and it seemed like a better investment in a nicer neighborhood. Person B's mortgage payment is roughly $1,000 per month higher than person A over 30 years. That difference in payment alone totals $360,000. But the real cost is far higher because of opportunity cost. If person A invested that $1,000 monthly difference in an index fund, earning the historical average return, after 30 years that money would have grown to over $1.2 million. Person B paid an extra $360,000 for a bigger house and sacrificed $1.2 million in potential wealth. The true cost of that housing decision was over $1.5 million. And the bigger house is unlikely to have appreciated enough to offset that difference, especially after accounting for the higher taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utilities paid over those 30 years. I tell people to buy the least expensive house that meets their genuine needs, not their wants, their needs. A home needs to provide shelter, security, and enough space for your family to live comfortably. It does not need to impress your neighbors or signal your success or have rooms you rarely enter. Every dollar spent on housing beyond what you actually need is a dollar that cannot compound for your future. The second wealth destroyer is new cars. This one is so pervasive and so damaging that I consider it the single biggest obstacle to wealth building for middle-class Americans. The average new car costs over $48,000. The average monthly payment is over $700. And a new car loses approximately 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot, then continues depreciating rapidly for the next several years. Think about what this means mathematically. You borrow $48,000 to buy something that is worth $30,000. $8,000 by the time you get home. You then make payments for 5 or 6 years on a depreciating asset. By the time you finish paying, the car is worth perhaps $15,000 and you have paid over $50,000 in principal and interest combined. You are out $35,000 and all you have is an aging vehicle that will soon need to be replaced. Now consider the alternative. You buy a 3-year-old certified pre-owned vehicle for $25,000. Someone else absorbed the massive first-year depreciation. You have a reliable car with modern safety features and a warranty, but you paid nearly half what the new car buyer paid, the $23,000 difference. Invested over the same period at historical stock market returns would grow to over $40,000. But here is where it gets truly devastating. Most people do not buy just one car in their lifetime. They repeat this cycle every 5 to 7 years. They trade in their current car, still making payments on it in many cases, and roll negative equity into a new loan for another depreciating vehicle. They are perpetually making car payments, perpetually destroying wealth, perpetually financing consumption that provides transportation they could have had for far less. I have driven many different vehicles over the years, but I have never bought a car to impress anyone. A car is transportation. It gets you from point A to point B. A $15,000 used car does this exactly as well as a $60,000 luxury vehicle. The only differences are status signaling and comfort features, neither of which contributes anything to your financial future. Every dollar spent on car payments beyond basic reliable transportation is a dollar permanently removed from your wealth building potential. The third wealth destroyer is lifestyle creep, the gradual expansion of spending that occurs as income increases. This is perhaps the most insidious wealth destroyer because it happens so slowly that people do not even notice it. They get a 10% raise and their lifestyle expands by 12%. They get a bonus and they upgrade something. They reach a new income level and they feel entitled to live at a new lifestyle level. I have watched this pattern destroy the wealth building potential of countless high earners, people making $200,000, $300,000, even $500,000 per year who have almost nothing saved because their expenses always expanded to match or exceed their income. They are running on a treadmill, working harder and harder to maintain a lifestyle that provides diminishing returns on happiness while eliminating any possibility of financial independence. The solution to lifestyle creep is simple in concept and difficult in execution. When your income increases, your lifestyle should not increase or should increase only modestly. The gap between your income and your expenses should grow over time, not stay constant or shrink. A person who maintains a $50,000 lifestyle while their income grows from $50,000 to $100,000 will become wealthy almost inevitably. A person who maintains a lifestyle equal to their income will never build significant wealth regardless of how much they earn. I raised my family on a modest lifestyle and maintained that lifestyle even as my income grew to extraordinary levels. The pleasures of life do not scale linearly with spending. A meal at a nice restaurant does not taste 10 times better than a meal cooked at home, even if it costs 10 times as much. A luxury vacation does not provide 10 times the relaxation and enjoyment of a modest vacation. Beyond a certain baseline of comfort, additional spending provides rapidly diminishing returns on life satisfaction while providing permanently negative returns on wealth building. The fourth wealth destroyer is high interest debt, particularly credit card debt. This is the most mathematically destructive financial decision a person can make, and yet approximately half of American households carry credit card balances. The average balance is over $6,000 at interest rates averaging over 20%. Let me be absolutely clear about what this means. Credit card debt at 20% interest doubles in approximately 3.5 years if you make only minimum payments. That $6,000 balance becomes $12,000 in 3.5 years, $24,000 in 7 years, $48,000 in 10.5 years. The interest payments alone on that original $6,000 will eventually total many times the original purchase. Whatever you bought with that credit card, no matter how wonderful it seemed at the time, was not worth paying 3, 4, or 5 times its price. Meanwhile, the stock market has historically returned approximately 10% annually. If you carry credit card debt while investing in the stock market, you are earning 10% on your investments while paying 20% on your debt. You are losing 10% net. It is mathematically impossible to build wealth while carrying high-interest debt. The debt destroys wealth faster than any investment can create it. The solution is absolute and non-negotiable pay off all high-interest debt before investing a single dollar beyond any employer match in retirement accounts. Make minimum payments on everything else and throw every available dollar at the highest interest debt until it is gone. Then attack the next highest interest debt. Continue until all high-interest debt is eliminated. Only then should you begin investing for growth. And once you are free of high-interest debt, never go back. If you cannot pay cash for something, you cannot afford it. The exceptions are a reasonable mortgage on a modest home and perhaps a car loan at a low interest rate if necessary. Everything else should be paid in full or not purchased at all. The momentary pleasure of a purchase is never worth years of interest payments that drain your financial future. The fifth wealth destroyer is expensive recurring subscriptions and memberships. This one seems minor compared to houses and cars and credit card debt. But its impact compounds over a lifetime into a surprisingly large wealth drain. The average American household spends over $200 per month on subscriptions, many of which they barely use or have forgotten they have. Streaming services, gym memberships, subscription boxes, premium app subscriptions, magazine subscriptions, club memberships, software subscriptions. Each one seems small, $10 here, $15 there, $50 for something else. But these small amounts add up to substantial sums. And unlike a one-time purchase, they continue draining your accounts month after month, year after year. Let me show you the mathematics. $200 per month in subscriptions equals $2,400 per year. Over 40 years at historical stock market returns, that money would have grown to over $600,000. $600,000 spent on subscriptions you probably do not fully use and will not remember in a decade. That is the cost of financial neglect, of allowing small recurring charges to accumulate without scrutiny. The solution is a subscription audit list. Every recurring charge hitting your accounts for each one. Ask whether you have used it in the past month and whether it provides value commensurate with its cost. Cancel everything that does not pass this test. Be ruthless. If you can get the same content or service for free or for less elsewhere, make the switch. If you are paying for a gym you do not visit, cancel it. If you are paying for streaming services you rarely watch, eliminate all but one beyond these 5 specific wealth destroyers. I want to share the underlying principle that connects them all. Every dollar you spend is a dollar that cannot compound for your future. Every purchase is not just the price on the tag, but the price plus all the future returns that money could have generated. A $100 purchase is not really $100. It is $100 plus the $500 or $1,000 or $2,000. That money would have become over the next 20 or 30 or 40 years. When you internalize this principle, your relationship with spending transforms. You stop seeing prices as simply the number on the tag. You start seeing prices as the true lifetime cost, including foregone compounding. That expensive dinner is not $50. It is $200 in 30 years. That designer handbag is not $500. It is $2,000 in 30 years. That vacation upgrade is not $1,000. It is $4,000 in 30 years. This does not mean you should never spend money. Life is meant to be lived, and money is a tool for living well. But it does mean you should spend consciously understanding the true cost of every decision. It means you should direct your spending toward things that genuinely improve your life rather than things that provide momentary pleasure and long-term regret. It means you should be intentional rather than impulsive, strategic rather than reactive. Let me tell you about something I observed decades ago that has stayed with me ever since. I noticed that the people who built significant wealth were not necessarily those who earned the most. They were those who kept the most of what they earned. They were those who understood the difference between income and wealth, between cash flow and net worth, between looking rich and being rich. I know people who drive modest cars and live in modest homes who have millions in investments. I know people who drive luxury cars and live in beautiful homes who have negative net worth. The first group made their money work for them. The second group works for their money and will continue working until they physically cannot, because they never built the assets that could have purchased their freedom. The choice between these two paths is made not in one dramatic moment, but in thousands of small daily decisions. Every time you choose to buy a reasonable car instead of an expensive one, you are choosing wealth. Every time you choose to live in a modest home instead of a mansion, you are choosing wealth. Every time you resist lifestyle creep and maintain spending discipline as your income grows, you are choosing wealth. Every time you pay off credit cards instead of carrying balances, you are choosing wealth. Every time you cancel subscriptions you do not need, you are choosing wealth. These choices do not feel dramatic in the moment. Choosing the used Toyota over the new BMW does not feel like a $100,000 decision. Choosing the smaller house does not feel like $1 million decision. But over decades, these choices compound just like investments compound. The person who consistently makes wealth building choices ends up wealthy. The person who consistently makes wealth destroying choices ends up poor. It is that simple and that stark. I want to address an objection I sometimes hear. People say they work hard and deserve nice things. They say life is short and they want to enjoy it now rather than saving everything for a retirement they might not live to see. I understand this sentiment, but I think it reflects a false dichotomy. You do not have to choose between enjoying life now and building security for the future. You can do both. The key is directing your spending toward experiences and items that genuinely enhance your life while eliminating spending that provides little lasting value. The research on happiness consistently shows that experiences provide more lasting satisfaction than material possessions. Relationships provide more satisfaction than status symbols. Security provides more satisfaction than luxury. The person who lives modestly, invests consistently, and enjoys meaningful experiences with people they love is not sacrificing happiness for wealth. They are optimizing for both. Meanwhile, a person who spends everything on impressive possessions and luxury consumption is often sacrificing both happiness and wealth. Because the hedonic treadmill ensures that today's luxury becomes tomorrow's expectation, requiring ever more spending to achieve the same satisfaction. The path I am describing is not about deprivation, it is about intention. It is about understanding what actually makes you happy and directing your resources toward those things while eliminating spending that does not contribute to genuine well-being. Most people, if they honestly examine their spending, would find that a large percentage goes to things that provide minimal lasting value. That spending is the wealth destroyer I am asking you to eliminate. Let me share what happened to the people I have known who eliminated these wealth destroyers from their lives. They did not feel deprived. They felt free from the pressure of keeping up with neighbors and colleagues, free from the stress of living paycheck to paycheck despite good incomes, free from the anxiety of unexpected expenses that would have been emergencies, free from the golden handcuffs of a lifestyle that required them to keep working whether they wanted to or not. And over time, they became wealthy. Not overnight, but steadily and inevitably, their investments compounded year after year. Their net worth grew while their lifestyle stayed constant. Eventually, they reached the point where work became optional, where they could pursue what they loved rather than what paid the bills, where financial worry was a distant memory rather than a daily companion. This outcome is available to almost anyone willing to eliminate the wealth destroyers I have described. It does not require a high income. It does not require special knowledge or connections. It requires only the discipline to stop sabotaging yourself, to stop making purchases that systematically destroy your financial future while providing minimal lasting benefit. I have lived 94 years, and I have never once regretted buying less house than I could afford. I have never regretted driving reasonable cars instead of luxury vehicles. I have never regretted maintaining a stable lifestyle instead of inflating it with every increase in income. I have never regretted avoiding debt. I have never regretted being intentional about subscriptions and recurring expenses. What I have is freedom. Freedom to work on what interests me. Freedom to give generously to causes I care about. Freedom to help family and friends without financial strain. Freedom from worry about money. Freedom to live life entirely on my own terms. That freedom is worth infinitely more than any house or car or lifestyle upgrade I might have purchased instead. You have the same choice I had. You can continue on the path of wealth destruction, making the purchases that feel normal because everyone around you makes them, wondering why you cannot get ahead despite working hard and earning decent money. Or you can recognize these patterns for what they are: systematic sabotage of your financial future, and choose a different path. The math is not complicated. Spend less than you earn. Avoid the 5 wealth destroyers. Invest the difference. Let compound interest work for you instead of against you. Do this consistently for decades, and wealth is virtually inevitable. Fail to do this, and poverty is virtually inevitable regardless of your income. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. The wealth destroyers I have described are not forced upon you. They are choices you make, often without realizing you are making them today. You can start making different choices. You can start eliminating the spending that destroys your financial future while contributing nothing to your present happiness. You can start building the foundation for a life of genuine freedom and security. Do not wait. Every day you continue on the path of wealth destruction is a day of compounding you will never get back. Every dollar you spend on things that do not matter is a dollar that cannot grow into $10 or $20 or $50 over your lifetime. The best time to change course was years ago. The second best time is today. Let me share some additional observations about these wealth destroyers that I have gathered over decades of watching how people handle money. There are patterns within patterns, subtleties that make the difference between those who successfully eliminate these drains and those who fall back into old habits. The first pattern I have noticed is that wealth destroyers tend to cluster together. People who buy too much house also tend to buy expensive cars. They carry credit card balances. They subscribe to services they do not use. They inflate their lifestyle with every raise. It is as if one wealth destroyer invites the others. The underlying psychology is the same: a focus on appearance over substance, on present gratification over future security, on consumption as a measure of success. Conversely, people who successfully eliminate one wealth destroyer often find it easier to eliminate others. Once you experience the freedom of driving a paid-off used car, the appeal of a new car payment diminishes. Once you experience the peace of living below your means, lifestyle inflation loses its attraction. Once you experience the relief of zero credit card debt, the idea of carrying a balance becomes unthinkable. Success builds on success. The second pattern is that the social environment matters enormously. We unconsciously calibrate our spending to match those around us. If your friends drive expensive cars, you feel pressure to drive an expensive car. If your neighbors live in large houses, you feel inadequate in a modest home. If your colleagues eat at expensive restaurants and take luxury vacations, you feel left out doing otherwise. This is why I have always chosen my social circle carefully, not based on wealth or status, but based on values. I have surrounded myself with people who measure success by character, contribution, and genuine happiness rather than by visible consumption. These relationships make it easy to maintain spending discipline because there is no social pressure pushing me toward wealth. Destroying behaviors. If your current social circle pressures you toward excessive consumption, you face a choice. You can try to resist that pressure while remaining in the environment, which requires constant willpower. Or you can seek out relationships with people who share your values about money and life. The second option is easier and more sustainable. We become the average of the people we spend the most time with. Choose those people deliberately. The third pattern is that wealth destroyers are often justified with stories. People do not say they bought an expensive car to impress others or because they lack self-control. They say they needed reliability or safety or resale value. People do not say they bought too much house because they wanted to display success. They say they needed good schools or space for entertaining or room to grow. People do not say they carry credit card debt because they spend beyond their means. They say they had unexpected expenses or temporary cash flow issues. These stories are rarely examined critically. They become automatic justifications that allow wealth-destroying behavior to continue without psychological discomfort. Breaking free from wealth destroyers requires breaking free from the stories that justify them. It requires honest self-examination about true motivations and actual needs versus manufactured wants. When I bought my home in 1958, I could have afforded something much more expensive. I could have told myself a story about needing more space or a better neighborhood or a home that reflected my growing success. Instead, I asked what I actually needed. I needed shelter for my family in a safe, comfortable environment. The home I bought provided exactly that. Everything beyond those genuine needs would have been wealth destruction disguised as reasonable choice. The fourth pattern is that wealth destroyers exploit psychological vulnerabilities that are hardwired into human nature. We are wired to compare ourselves to others and seek status within our social groups. We are wired to prefer immediate rewards over delayed rewards. We are wired to justify our decisions after the fact rather than examine them beforehand. We are wired to adapt quickly to improvements in circumstances requiring ever more to achieve the same satisfaction. Marketers and advertisers understand these vulnerabilities intimately. They spend billions of dollars exploiting them to separate you from your money. Every car advertisement, every real estate listing, every credit card offer is carefully designed to trigger psychological responses that override rational decision. Understanding this is the first step to defending against it. I make financial decisions using systems and rules rather than in the moment feelings. I decided decades ago what kind of house I would live in, what kind of cars I would drive, how much I would spend on various categories. These decisions were made once, rationally, when I was not being subjected to emotional manipulation. Then I simply follow the rules regardless of momentary temptations or clever marketing. The fifth pattern is that eliminating wealth destroyers creates a positive feedback loop. When you stop wasting money on things that do not make you happy, you have more money to invest. When you have more money invested, you see your net worth growing. When you see your net worth growing, you become more motivated to continue your wealth building behaviors. Success breeds more success. This positive feedback loop accelerates over time. In the early years, progress feels slow. You eliminate a wealth destroyer, invest the savings, and your account balance barely moves. This is when most people give up and return to old habits. But if you persist through this phase, you eventually reach a tipping point where your investments are generating meaningful returns. The growth becomes visible and motivating. The positive feedback loop takes hold and propels you forward. I want to address something specific about each wealth destroyer that might help you in practical terms. For housing, the key metric is your total housing cost as a percentage of your income. Include mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utilities. This total should not exceed 25 to 30% of your gross income, and less is better. If you are above this threshold, you are spending too much on housing, regardless of what the bank approved or what your neighbors spend. For cars, the key metric is your total transportation spending. Include car payments, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and registration. For most people, this should not exceed 10% of gross income. If you are driving a car that costs you more than this, you are destroying wealth for the privilege of transportation that could be obtained for far less. For lifestyle creep, the key metric is your savings rate. What percentage of your income are you saving and investing? If this percentage is not increasing as your income grows, lifestyle creep has captured all your gains. Your goal should be to increase your savings rate by at least 1 percentage point for every 10% increase in income. For high-interest debt, the metric is simple. The number should be 0. Any balance above 0 on credit cards or other high-interest debt is a financial emergency requiring immediate attention. Every dollar of such debt is actively destroying your wealth every single day it remains unpaid. For subscriptions, the key metric is your total monthly recurring charges. List them all, add them up, and ask whether each one provides value worth its cost. Most people find they can eliminate 25 to 50% of their subscriptions with zero impact on their quality of life. These metrics give you concrete targets to work toward. They transform abstract principles into measurable goals. You can track your progress monthly and see clearly whether you are moving toward wealth or continuing to destroy it. Let me also speak to those who feel they are too far behind to benefit from these principles. Perhaps you have already bought too much house, already have an expensive car, already carry significant debt. You might feel that the damage is done and there is no point in changing course now. This thinking is wrong. The best time to eliminate wealth destroyers was before you acquired them. The second best time is now. Every day you continue on the wrong path makes the ultimate destination worse. Every day you spend on the right path makes it better, and never too late to change direction. If you have an expensive house, you can sell it and downsize. You will take a loss on transaction costs, but you will free up capital and reduce ongoing expenses. If you have an expensive car, you can sell it and buy something reasonable. The loss you take today is far smaller than the continued loss you will experience by keeping it. If you have high-interest debt, you can begin paying it down aggressively today. Every dollar of debt you eliminate stops generating interest against you. The sunk cost fallacy tells us to consider past expenditures when making current decisions. This is irrational. What you spent yesterday is gone, regardless of what you do today. The only question is what the best decision is going forward, given your current situation. Looking forward, eliminating wealth destroyers is always the right choice, regardless of past mistakes. I have made mistakes in my life. I have made investments that did not work out. I have spent money on things I later regretted. The difference between those who build wealth and those who do not is not the absence of mistakes. It is the willingness to learn from mistakes and change course rather than continuing on the wrong path out of pride or inertia. The wealth destroyers I have shared today are not moral failings. They are common patterns that millions of intelligent, hardworking people fall into. Recognizing them in your own life is not cause for shame. It is cause for hope, because recognition is the first step toward change. You have the power to stop destroying your wealth starting today. You have the power to redirect resources from consumption that does not serve you toward investments that will compound for decades. You have the power to build a future of financial security and freedom rather than a future of continued struggle and dependence. That power has always been yours. Use it.